Okay, good afternoon everyone. Apparently we are live, so I look forward to seeing some of your comments. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. So today we've got obviously a selection of watches like always, and we'll talk about a few of them. But I am hoping my chat cannot connect. Just give me a second. If someone could try typing something in the chat, it looks like my chat isn't working, which is quite annoying. Hello William, I can see you now. How are you all doing? Hope you're all doing well. I'm to do a little pop-out chat, so do forgive me. But yeah, so today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of watches on the table. We're also going to be answering some questions that you guys asked on Instagram Live. I'm just talking, as usual, about a few things. My dad says he can hear me fine. Perfect, thank you. So just to begin, I just want to say thank you to everyone as always for tuning into these. These are pretty fun, and hopefully it's keeping you guys distracted. I'm finding it a little bit difficult to come up with topics each and every day for about an hour. As you can imagine, there's only so much you can say about the same sort of stock, so we're trying to switch it up with Q&A, and we'll talk about a few other things as well. I just want to first of all thank John here in the UK who purchased this lovely Orient that I showed in yesterday's stream, an absolute bargain on the website. And guys, don't forget on the website, because this watch and two others that sold over the weekend were from people who had seen the live stream and seen me showing them here, and they didn't realise I had them. Now on the website there is 3 pages of stock. So if you guys are bored at all, do scroll through and make sure you see everything that's on the website, because there is a lot for sale that you guys might not have actually seen, which was the case with these purchases that have been made over the weekend. So it shows that you guys are enjoying these live streams and it is helping you guys make decisions as well. So thank you William for tuning in. Thank you Ashley, how are you doing? Hello Peter, hope you're doing well. And before we begin properly, I want to talk about a watch that I'm considering for myself. So for anyone that's been paying attention over, Jesus, I don't even know, like the past 2-3 years, you'll see I reduced my personal collection down to very, very few watches. One of which is this lovely Hamilton I'm wearing on my wrist, which was a birthday treat for my 22nd. Absolutely love it. Gorgeous watch. So I don't often buy watches anymore because most of the time it's all going into stock. It's buying for the website and everything like that. But occasionally I do want to add a personal watch to the collection. So let me show you one I'm considering, which might surprise a few of you guys. Hi Chris, how you doing? How are you doing, mate? Chris Chadwick is the guy on Instagram who made my watch roll that I know quite a few of you guys have seen. And we have some exciting stuff that we're working on, which we are not going to announce yet. But let's just say it's going to be awesome once it gets there. Anyway, I was going to show you one I am considering. So this is going to be a shock to a lot of you guys. The Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80 with the silicone hairspring. This is a really, really gorgeous watch in my opinion. The colour and depth of the blue is beautiful. I'm undecided on what colour I'd go with. There is a silver option and a black option, I believe. The look is obviously very, very similar to the Oyster Perpetual Rolex. Now dimensions wise, it is a 40mm by 48, so it'd wear very well on my wrist. And it's just a gorgeous watch. I mean, look at the multi-levels of finishing here on this Tissot. It's incredible. You know, I think they've really knocked it out of the park with this watch, and it offers a hell of a lot of watch for not an awful amount of money. And I think it's just a gorgeous piece, and one I'd probably wear regularly. And the reason I like it is because it's a Tissot. It's not trying to be something it's not. It's not screaming from the rooftop, and it's affordable. Now, retail in the UK is about $650. I have someone who I know who's at Tissot, so I would get it at a decent deal. But I just think the amount of watch you get for the money, I don't know, it just seems worth it to me. I mean, look at the level of finishing here. It just looks incredible. It's got nice lume, there's the movement. Not a beautiful movement by any stretch of the imagination, but a very reliable one. 80-hour power reserve, silicone hairspring, so it's got all the upgrades you'd expect. The bracelet will be decent. The good thing about this watch is it would look great on a leather strap. They offer it on a brown leather. There it is. So you can see on a strap it looks absolutely brilliant as well, and the dimensions are perfect for everything. And it would be kind of a great all-round watch. I just can't get over the finishing and everything. And the fact it is a Tissot, I think that's quite cool. You know, everyone is so busy with the Rolexes and with all these pieces, which we're going to talk about today. I just think having something a bit different like the Tissot is pretty cool, pretty unusual. Look forward to hearing what you guys think. William says it looks very Datejust. I'd say yes, yeah. There's definitely the inspiration there. You know, no one's going to deny that. But it's done in a way that's still authentic to itself. I mean, I'm sure if you go far enough back in Tissot's lineup, they probably have a watch this is based on. I mean, the Tissot range has been out for so long. They've got so many designs. You could probably even go as far back to like the Visa dates, or the Viso dates, as I believe it's pronounced, and sort of take reference to those as being the inspiration. But yeah, of course, it does definitely looks like the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, the Datejust. Looks great on the strap. Yep, definitely. My dad says great choice. So I just wanted to start off with that, just a thank you for the people who have purchased, and obviously thank you for joining these streams. It means a lot. And yeah, and show you one thing I'm looking at considering getting. So without any further ado, let's get into a couple of the questions that you guys asked on Instagram. On the table is watches that I've already shown, and they're more going to be used for reference, hopefully, in regards to the questions. Feel free to ask any questions you have, and I will happily stop answering the ones on here to answer your live questions. So first off, we'll start with my dad. He says, after all this is over, what's the first thing you're going to do? The truth is, I'm going to go to the pub, and and I'm going to go to the pub with John from Antique Watch, and we're going to have a good few drinks and a good catch up, and just relax, breathe. You know, normality is back in some sort of sense. What that is and what that will be, we still don't know, but at least that will happen. And talking about that, I'm going to crack open a cider to enjoy during this stream. If you haven't got yourselves a drink already, go get one. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I mean, we're only an hour away. Perfect. So, CJ Thorne asks, does buying pieces for the shop scratch your itch for buying for the personal collection? Great question, and 100%. 100%. It also gives me an excuse to buy pieces. Quite a few watches I've purchased. This Orient was a great example. I bought this in because I absolutely loved it, and I got to enjoy it for about 3 weeks before it even went on the website. So having the website and having the store and being a collector at heart, it's kind of the perfect win-win. Now, granted, I still have to try and make sure I'm buying with my brain as opposed to my heart, because if I'm buying with my heart, I make bad buying decisions because I just buy what I like. Now, there's something to be said for that, because when it comes to reselling, people know I bought what I like. Therefore, they can relate to it a lot more, and sometimes it even sells better. And I've surprised a lot of people in the trade when I bought things and they go, what on earth is that? Because I like the unusual. And they will shun me for it, and they will look at it and just go, what the hell is that? No one's going to buy that. And then it sells far beyond my expectation, and everyone is left in shock. And I mean, if you're buying what you like, you're buying what you love, and someone else is also going to love that. You'll have to excuse me if you hear hoovering in the house. I do apologise, but this was a perfect example. I really like the design. I wanted to enjoy it myself before it went for sale, and that's exactly what I did. So yes, great question. It does scratch my itch, but occasionally I do have to buy a watch for me, and one that doesn't go to the website, because I mean, I've been showing a couple of Instagram posts from 2016, 2017, going each year and sharing them on my Instagram story. If you haven't seen that, go check it out, and you'll see what my collection used to be. I used to have a pretty good collection. I'm not saying I don't now, it's just it's nowhere near what it used to be, and that was a sacrifice made for this. A worthy sacrifice, and one I do not regret one bit. But every now and again, I do have to treat myself. But yes, it definitely does scratch my itch. Could not agree more. Hello, Neville. How are you doing? William says, I must say I prefer Tissot watches of the older days, but I'd say I prefer most brands' older watches over the modern. Yeah, and you know what? I'd agree with you on most part. I do, however, think some brands offer great options in their modern lineup, especially in the Rights range. And the reason I say the Rights range is because when you look at a brand like Tissot, they cover so many options that very few, in my opinion, are actually worthy and actually very good. The Visa Date and a couple of the heritage models. Again, a brand like Hamilton, like what I'm wearing, this is a cracking watch, and I prefer this version over its vintage counterpart, because the vintage counterpart is about 33mm, and it's not very good. The reason being they swapped out to the Hamilton's of that era to be basically disposable. That was the whole point of them. So they're just not built very well. They're not very reliable in the long run. The cases are made of almost a chrome composite. So the Hamilton Modern is far superior, without question, in both design, looks, and also build quality. So there are exceptions to that rule, but I do agree with you on the most part. William says, I'll join you and have a whiskey. Cheers, William. Enjoy the whiskey. Nice to hear you have your priorities right. I mean, I could always come back to Leicester and see my family, right, Dad? But I mean, the pub. I've got to go to the pub once all this is over. Love the Orient, such a great piece for the price. Agreed, 100%. I think it's a beautiful watch, and the gentleman who bought this, he's going to be very, very happy. I do not doubt it one bit. You think about having your own range of watch straps and watch rolls. Peter is on it. Chris Chadwick, don't mention a thing. Don't mention a thing. I'll say this. Obviously, most brands and most people have their own range of watch straps and watch rolls and watch accessories, right? And it's something I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. It was just finding the right capacity in which to do it. The reason I say that is because I didn't want to mass order things from a certain place in the world and offer them out. Now, I'm not saying that's what every other brand does. I mean, you've got Adrian at Bark and Jack and a Collected Man who offer incredibly high quality straps at very good prices for what they are. And I think they're great options. However, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So we are working on something which is going to be completely handmade, completely hand-stitched, and that's the important part. You hear the word handmade a lot of the times, but it doesn't always refer to hand-stitched. So completely handmade, hand-stitched in the UK by a single person with all of its leather sourced and bred basically within the UK. I mean, we could go take you to see the cow of which it came from. We probably won't do that, but we might use a couple of videos and stuff like that to show the process and everything. Pretty much we've got some big plans. It's going to be 100% English made and handmade and all the good stuff, and a co-collaboration between me and Chris. So I'll sort of leave it there, although I've basically just said the whole thing. We're working on a bespoke, handmade range of watch accessories. So there you go. I've pretty much just let the secret out. But I mean, it was kind of obvious it was going that way. The bracelet looks very interesting. Yeah, so the bracelet, we spoke about it in yesterday's stream, but it's what they call, or I believe it's called, a fluted bracelet, and it's based on the design of the fluted bezel, and it follows all the way around to the buckle. Really cool. It's made for this watch. It fits perfectly. It's an Orient strap. It's very cool. The 3-stars have great value. Yeah, again, we covered that yesterday in the affordable watches. The Orient 3-star, the Seiko 5, and the Citizen Eagle 7. So 357. There's a connection there. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. Some conspiracy. Yeah. Stories are good. 100%. 100%. Stories is what sells. I've had the Orient 3-star. Also a couple of Orient day dates. Brilliant watches. Yep, 100%. I'm good, thanks. I lost out on a bid for the Gecko to like yours on eBay yesterday. Oh no. Just buy it straight off their website. Support the guys. They're good. They're good. Sounds really cool, James. Can't wait. Could you do vegan straps, etc.? We haven't really spoke or even discussed that as an option yet. It might be something we look into. I guess there's a lot of ethical sort of bonuses to that, but it's just the process of getting the leather and also the cost implications, which may be more. I'm really not sure. We haven't looked into it. I'll put that point across and see what we come up with. It's a good suggestion. Can never keep a secret too long. No, I can't. More marketing opportunity. Yeah, 100%, Peter, 100%. And as you probably guessed by, what we plan to do it is a great marketing opportunity here, as well as providing something that really is incredibly high quality. You've got a marketing dream, which is perfect, really. Let's have a look. What other questions? We've got Jamal Maruf. Again, apologies if I've completely butchered your name. You asked, safest first Rolex / watch under 6,500 that will hold value decently over a fairly long period of time. Okay, so Jamal, thank you for your question, first of all, and it's a very interesting one, and one I find myself having daily, and I think every other dealer will contest it, having this conversation daily. The first thing is, what is your priority here? So if you've got $6,500 to spend on a watch, and it sounds to me like your goal here is to get something that will hold value decently over a fairly long period of time, that is the goal for every single person who basically ever buys a watch. Now the truth is, the watch market and watches in general aren't to be seen as these kind of assets, in my personal opinion, and the opinion of a lot of professionals who do this. Now, I can speak differently to this because this is my job. The same way a car dealer has to buy cars at a certain price to be able to make his profits, and it's his job, it's his living. He researches the market day in, day out, or she does, and that's what they do. That being said, if this is your hobby, treat it as your hobby. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be out there trying to get good deals, and you shouldn't be out there trying to leverage what you have and understanding the market. 100%, do all that. But just accept the fact that these are expensive toys. At the end of the day, that's what they are. And they are uncertain. You know, we can look at what's happening right now with the coronavirus and any other sort of global financial hit, if you will. These sometimes go down, sometimes they go up. And the thing is, tastes change, and a lot of people seem to forget. You know, everyone is raving about Tudor, and I agree, they're incredible watches, I love them. But they kind of fell off the face of the earth in the 90s. It's almost like people forgot the early 2000s. Tudor pulled out of the market in the Western world, pretty much completely. And it's almost like everyone's completely forgot about that. So it goes to show a brand that everyone loves and adores and thought was doing incredibly well went off the face of the earth. So we can't rely on these for that reason, in that same way. That's why if people look at people like myself or other dealers who buy and sell, oftentimes we don't hold back stock. You know, we don't buy to put something away in the safe, or at least the dealers that are in the right way, because we understand that that's not guaranteed. As much as you think you know the market, and as much as you've looked at the analytics and the stats and everything, you just don't know. Tastes change. Two-tone, for example, was huge. It went up and down. Panerai had a huge surge. Hoya, not that long ago, went crazy and then it came down. So these are important things to consider. If you're buying a watch with that kind of price range for investment purposes only, and I make this point, for investment purposes only, then don't put it in watches. Put that money in gold, put it in silver, like bullion, because it's a more tangible thing of investment, right? Or put it in completely different stocks and shares, anything else other than watches, because these should be seen as expensive toys. These are not guaranteed to go up. They're also not guaranteed to go down. They're not guaranteed to do anything. You know, it depends on taste, markets, situations, production. You know, you just never know what could happen. So for that reason, whenever someone says about investment, I just say don't invest in watches. It's just pointless unless you're going to get in this as a trade, and then you're not investing in watches. You're buying a watch at a good price, then sell it, hopefully in a quick enough period that you make a good return. Like, you don't often hold on to watches. You know, that's kind of the way it goes. Whereas if you're collecting for yourself, you've got to, first of all, buy what you like, not see it as an investment. If it goes up, great. If it goes down, great. You know, it's what I like to call cost aware. Let's use something for an example. Let's say you bought this watch for £6,500 that it's currently on the website for. And let's say you wear this watch for 5 years and you decide to sell it. Now we're throwing numbers out. This isn't what's going to happen. This isn't what I'm predicting. I'm just using it for ease of maths for everyone to understand. So you buy this watch for £6,500, you enjoy it for 5 years and you sell it. You then sell it for £5,500. So you've lost £1,000, right? You've just lost £1,000. Now let's take it in what we call cost aware, or what I call cost aware. That has cost you £200 a year to enjoy this watch. That's not a bad deal. You know, when you look at it in that way, you've enjoyed something, you've got to wear something, you've got the opportunity to get experiences with something at the cost of £200 a year. Again, you can break it down further into monthly payments. You can break it down further into weekly. And once we start getting to that point, you can start determining how many Costa coffees that is, you know, a week that you're spending to enjoy a watch. And you can really go on to that level with this kind of thought process. But it's an interesting thought process to have, because everyone will look at that number of £1,000 lost and just like shit the bed over it. And there's just no need, you know, unless you're in the trade and this is your job. You've got to be thinking of these as expensive toys, and in such, they're not guaranteed to go up. Now, let's say in a crazy world situation, you sell this for £500 more after 5 years. Brilliant. You've now been paid technically £100 a year to enjoy this watch. So this gets to my point. Buy what you like. Buy what you like. And try and buy it well, and try and buy it from someone you trust, and someone you know who isn't just ripping you off to get a good deal, right? And to make the most margin. Someone who understands, Like, and you yourself as the buyer need to understand this is a normal business. Just because it's your hobby and just because you're into it, as I am, doesn't make it any different to any other industry. Dealers out there and watch places have to make money to survive. It's what we do, right? It's how everyone survives. So find someone you trust who you know isn't ripping you off, who you know is making a fair margin for what they do, and buy right. And if you buy right, you enjoy, you lose money, you make money, it doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, you're enjoying the watch and you look at it at cost to wear. That being said, if your focus is investment and you don't want to listen to me about not investing in watches and you're going to do it anyway, it's the cliches, right? Buy Rolex. And if you've got £6.5 to spend, try and buy maybe a pre-ceramic sub under 6.5, full set, good condition, a nice clean example, and probably don't wear it. Put it in the safe. I mean, if your whole purpose is investment, you wearing it's probably not going to help investing. So that is the truth. And it's something it was a really good question, and I find myself having it every day, so I wanted to sort of go into it in a bit more detail. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It wasn't really a rant, more of you can tell I have this conversation every day, so I wanted to put it out there for you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying. So William says, exactly, James, trends come and go and tastes also change. Buy a watch because you love it, want to wear it. Buy property in gold at the right price if you want to invest. Exactly, William, exactly. That's my point, and that's what I say to every single person. Because as you can imagine, I get this question every single day. And usually my first response is, are you looking at becoming a watch dealer? And they say no. I'm like, well then, forget about investment. You know, buy what you like. Buy what you like. It's become too much of a subject, and I'm hoping it changes over time. I'm hoping it goes back to people looking at these as watches. You know, there was a time way before even I was into it. You know, I've been into it since this has been sort of the reoccurring conversation that everyone likes to have. But you know, I spoke to dealers who used to say, like, used to get collectors come in who just are passionate about watches, whereas now it's about the reference number and it's about the value of that watch and it's about how much it's gone up in the last 2-3 years. And it's just lost its charm, you know, to some of these dealers who have watched this whole industry change. And that's one of the benefits and downsides of the internet, because now we have the ability to cross-check prices in a flash. So therefore, everything's about getting this watch £50 cheaper, rather than buying it from who you like and buying the condition you like and buying it because you love the watch. And maybe you got treated really, really well in that experience. That is worth that extra £50. These are the important things. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Buy a watch to wear and enjoy. Exactly, Neville, exactly. So thank you very much, Jamal, for that question. Really great question. And let's move on to the next one. So, who is asking this one? Leon Gavelli. I'm really sorry for absolutely butchering your name. I don't know if it is a name or just a load of letters for your profile, so apologies. He asks, any cheap watches you would recommend now that Citizen Eagle 7s is harder to find? It's quite interesting you say that, because I used to buy Citizen Eagle 7s back when they were £13 to £20, and now I've seen a few go for way over £100, like £150 for a really good example. It's just like, that is, they've certainly gone up. Now, in the grand scheme of watches, that is still considered affordable. Now, if you're talking in the realms of £15 to £20, the truth is I don't think there's really much left at those kind of price ranges anymore. That is good. That is as good as a Citizen Eagle 7 or a Seiko 5 was back when you could pick them up at those kind of prices 3 or 4 years ago. So if you have that kind of money, and I'm talking £20 to £50 maybe to spend, I would say just save a little bit more and try and get a Seiko 5 or a Citizen Eagle 7 if that's what you like. Because that £20 can't get you what it used to. I used to pick up vintage Oris for £25, £30 way back in the day, and again those are now almost always £80 to £150, which granted in the grand scheme still isn't a lot of money. So you've got to determine how long it takes you to save up that £20 to £50 if that is your budget, and how patient you can be, right? If you really want that Citizen Eagle 7 or you really want that Seiko 5, just wait. Because all you're going to do is spend that money you've got on something you didn't actually want, right? just to substitute what you couldn't have at that time. So I'd say wait. And to be honest, there isn't really an option within that kind of price range. Maybe a Casio or what else would I recommend? Yeah, Casio. I think Casio at that kind of price, because you're not really going to find much unless you're lucky and you hold out. I've got 2 questions from Peter Smith, who's in the stream, so thank you, Peter. He says, what's the best watch you have ever owned, and what was the watch you regret selling the most? So double question there. The watch Best watch I've ever personally owned, so we're not talking stock here, we're not talking stuff I've bought in with the sole purpose to sell, something I've personally owned. Probably my Tudor Black Bay 36 was the best watch I personally owned. Gorgeous watch, perfect in every single way, apart from a few, which I discussed in my video of why I sold my watch. I felt like it had an identity problem. Now what I mean by that is you've got the aesthetics of a dive watch with the classiness and the sort of toned down look of a dress watch, with many other aspects that as a whole look brilliant together, but just it gave it a bit of an identity problem. Now also for me personally, a grail watch has always been a vintage Explorer 36mm or 1016 or something along those lines, a very, very true vintage Explorer. So I bought the Black Bay 36 because that Explorer was way out of my sort of price range and way out of my vision, even for the next, 10 years back then. So I went with the Black Bay 36. I don't regret it. I think it's a great watch and I would happily own that again. But I knew back then I was buying it because I couldn't afford something else. And that comes back to the answer I gave to the gentleman before about waiting to buy what you actually want, right? A lot of people are buying, and there's nothing wrong with this watch. I love it. I've sold quite a few now. The Black Bay GMT. The Black Bay GMT is a fantastic watch. I think for the price, you're not going to get a better watch. And Peter, you know this, right? So this is a really great watch, but a lot of people are buying it because they can't afford the Rolex GMT. And I think when you go down that route, you end up buying something to supplement something else that you can't have yet. Now, again, that's different for each person, but a lot of people will fall out of love for that watch, and that's what happens. And this is why when that Tudor GMT came out, I could see this happening. And it happened pretty quick. I got quite a few in very early days that I sold privately that I got from retail through a connection I had at certain retailers. And I managed to flip a few very early on for a couple of hundred on top of retail, very quick processes to people who really, really wanted it. And I said, if you wait, these will be available at retail, and they didn't want to wait, and fair enough, I gave them the option, and they bought it from me. And within a month or 2 months, a lot of these people were calling me back to sell it again because they'd fallen out of love, because they were buying it because they were either following the hype or couldn't afford the GMT. Now, that being said, the ones who I know bought that watch because they love that watch, they are smitten with it. You are not taking that watch off their wrist, and that's great, and that's how it should be. So that's exactly what I didn't do with the Black Bay 36. So that's my point I'm getting at there. So Black Bay 36 was the best watch I've ever owned personally, and the watch I regret selling the most is my Oris. So I'm going to find a photo of it. It's an Oris Artix GT. Now this watch is still available at retail, however it's a bit different now, and the quality, in my personal opinion, just isn't as good. They've sort of downgraded their quality a little bit and upped their prices on this Artix GT. Let me find it. So what are people saying? William says 100% agree, James. Peter says they can go up and then drop like we're seeing now. Yep, exactly. And that's why, if you buy what you like, you can see those numbers dropping and you don't care because your intention wasn't to sell anyway, right? Like my personal watches, I don't even track what they're selling for because I don't care, because they're not going to be for sale. Not anytime soon anyway. So that's the important thing. Here we go. I found a photo of my Oris. So let me get this in focus. Feels weird showing a photo on my phone. So this was my Oris Artix GT. Really, really great watch. Black ceramic bezel, dark black dial, day date down there at the bottom. It was 40mm. It just wore beautifully. A really, really great bracelet. Screw down crown. 100 meters war resistant. Solita inside. It just ticked all the boxes. It worked well on dressy occasions. It worked well in sporty occasions because it is a sport watch. Got the white ring on the inside. Just perfect. And I really, really, really do miss this watch, and I would happily own it again. I have found many examples of this watch. However, for some reason, they're under the same reference. There's one with the black on that white ring instead of white. And a lot of the ones I've seen are this exact one with the black instead of the white. I know someone who owns the black version as well. But it was just that white contrast, which was just beautiful. And I can't seem to find it. And also for a fair price. The last one I saw, and bearing in mind I sold mine with everything, box papers, all that. Worn, granted, but in good condition still. And the price I sold it at, was a fair amount of money, and it helped to get the business where it got to, and it was a lot more than I paid for it, granted, because I got a very lucky deal. But I just can't seem to find one at all. So you guys ever see one of these, let me know. I don't think I'm in the point of buying one just yet, but it definitely has to come back, And I don't remember who I sold it to. I think it sold on eBay, so I can't even find out. It was a long, long time ago. So that's the watch I regret selling the most by a long shot. and it wasn't the most expensive. It was actually very, very affordable for what I bought it for. And that was part of the reason why I sold it, because the margin was so good back then, and also I was getting this off the ground and I kind of needed the money, and I didn't really want to get in debt to do that. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Let's see what you guys are saying. I've got a little Seiko 5 and it's a little belter of a watch. Yes, Neville, the Seiko 5s are brilliant. You know, I've had quite a few, and they're brilliant. I personally prefer the Turtles, but then again, the price range is different and the style of watch is very different, so they're not really comparable. But yes, yeah, agreed 100%. Remember those days? I also remember when you could pick up a Royal Oak at 18k too. I miss those days a lot. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. You can't beat a Seiko 5. Great value for money, 100%. Peter says, love it. Wow, that's beautiful. I think you were talking about the Oris. Yeah, it was a gorgeous watch. Gorgeous watch. I mean, I owned that watch for 2 years, I think, maybe a bit longer. Yeah, shouldn't have got rid of that. Should not have got rid of that. I think it was one of the most underrated Oris. You know, when people would say, oh, what watch have you got? I'd say an Oris. They would never, ever, ever guess this watch. And I'd show it them, and they'd prefer it over the Oris 65 or the Aquis and all these other options, because it was so separate from everything. It wasn't a dive watch. It wasn't a straight sports watch. It's supposed to be, because the Arctics range was a driving range, and I think it still is. It's very closely linked to the Williams range that Oris provide. Gorgeous watch. Yeah, I shouldn't have sold it. But I don't regret what it's managed to provide. So I'll be forever thankful of owning it. And it was one of those situations which we just spoke about, where when I sold it, I earned money on it. So technically, I was being paid to enjoy this watch over that time. So I guess it's all about perspective and how you look at it. Oris makes some great watches. The Diver 65 tempts me a lot. Yeah, really great watch, the Diver 65. You know, you've got the riveting bracelet, which tapers like drastically. It's gorgeous. The overall design is brilliant. It's brilliant. Really cool piece. Chris says, don't worry, I won't say it, mate. Oh, I think you're just catching up with where we were. Yes, I may have already spilled the beans of what we're doing, but it's all good. It's all good. So, I've got another question. Who's this one from? I'm just going to have a sip of my my juice. It's just juice. Oh, that is very nice. So, Gogarty33 says, do you see a comeback of quartz watches anytime soon? So thank you for the question. I'm not too sure what you mean by that. So comeback of quartz watches, it depends what we're talking about. If we're referring to the 70s quartz crisis where quartz became king, I don't think so, because I think we live in a very different world now where people are appreciating mechanical. But then also, if you take a look at sales statistics, right? If you look at the majority of watches that sell, now I'm not talking the brands we're looking at today or the price range we're looking at today, I'm talking watches as a whole. So that means it includes Michael Kors, it includes Hugo Boss, it includes entry-level Tissot, which, by the way, Tissot are responsible for about 25% of all exports out of Switzerland, which is just like bonkers. So when you consider all these factors, quartz still is king. Quartz sell the most in terms of units. Now obviously in terms of value it's a different question, because you have to sell X amount of quartz watches to make up for that one grand complication Patek, you know, which has like the constellation calendar and all crazy shit for, you know, £1 million or whatever. So it's a difficult thing to compare on value, but in terms of units, quartz is still king, because it's just a more affordable way of selling, so or making watches. So quartz still is king. Do I see it coming back in the same way as before? Absolutely not. I think quartz in that way is always going to be something you get because you just like the watch or you want a quartz watch. There's nothing wrong with quartz. I own many quartz watches myself. But what I think we're going to see a comeback, or not a comeback, we're going to see something happen, is with the smartwatch movement. Now, I'm openly not a smartwatch person. I prefer a watch to be a watch rather than a wrist gadget, which is what a smartwatch is in my opinion. However, we are seeing an upsurge of smartwatches, and all these people that are saying this is going to be the demise of the Swiss watches and brands, I think are just seeing it completely wrong. I think we need to look at it the same way as what Swatch was when Swatch first came out. Swatch was the sort of entry for a lot of people to get into watches at a much more affordable price in most cases, and get them used to wearing a watch. Now, Swatch watches for the most part back then were quite disposable. You know, you broke the strap, chances are you probably only paid £30-40 for it, so you threw it away. So you get used to that, wearing a watch, and then all of a sudden it stops or it breaks or whatever, and you start looking at alternatives. Not always, but most people will look at alternatives, and that's when they find mechanical watches. And usually what draws them, first of all, is the fact that they don't have to change a battery. I mean, how cool is that? So they get into it through that. So it brings people full circle from something that was going to be the demise of the watch world into supporting the watch world. You know, it's that whole thing, and I think smartwatches is the same. Because technology moves so fast that these smartwatches become redundant usually after a year. Now, they might still get updates, but it's like your phone, right? Your phone starts basically becoming useless after about 2 years. You know, my phone's getting to that point and already it's slowing down. I'm pretty sure the brands put something in these phones that just makes them go really bad so that you have to upgrade. I'm not saying they are, but it just seems like that. So what I was saying with smartwatches is that it's going to be a similar thing. That technology is going to become redundant, and they're going to have to upgrade. And there's probably only going to be so many times they do that before they start looking at alternatives and going, you know what, this mechanical watch, it's a bit more expensive, but you get a lot different. But also, there's a lot of people in the watch world who are mechanical watch people and have an Apple Watch or have the new Tag Heuer that's just come out, because they want that wrist gadget, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's seeing the difference between the two. So I don't think quartz is ever going to come back in the way it basically almost killed the whole industry. I just think we're going to see another resurrection of another side of the industry which doesn't yet exist, or is still new, which is smartwatches. And I'm interested to see where that technology goes. It's not for me, but I'm interested to watch it. And I'm interested to watch how they market to these people who are getting these smartwatches from the traditional watches, right? I think they should be marketing to these people. They should be finding a way to introduce themselves to these people to bring them in, because you know, you can own both a smartwatch and a mechanical watch, right? You want to go play golf, take your new Tag Heuer, which has the golf courses built into the actual watch. It's incredible. And then you want to go out for a nice meal in the evening, get your mechanical watch. So I think there's a big opportunity here as opposed to something that's going to be detrimental. That's my take. How you doing, Watch Collecting Strategy? Hope you're well. Took your advice. We started a little bit later today, 4 p.m. We are going live on Instagram tomorrow with John Antique Watch Company. Not too sure what time, so keep an eye out on Instagram for the announcements. And then Thursday I will try also again late, maybe a bit later, because we are still quite bright and it's still working, so that's good. Neville says, I think smartwatches will only serve to make mechanical watches more desirable. You've hit the nail on the head. I agree 100%. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's interesting. And I think we are going to see people who never ever would have wore a watch in the first place now coming into the industry, into the market. And it's about capturing those people at the right points, right? So I think that's the interesting thing we're going to see. You know, how are brands going to capture these people who would never have been in this market anyway? Right, so it's not taking away from the market; it's bringing people in, and I think that's an interesting prospect. It's interesting to see what they're going to do. Watch Collecting Strategy says that Hamilton is awesome. I was about to buy the same one last night. Can you put it in front of the camera again? Of course. Here we go. So Hamilton Khaki Mechanical. It is a gorgeous watch. Now, for anyone really interested in my full views, because I have quite a lot of them on this watch, on my website there's a blog section. I did a full in-depth review of this watch because I've owned it for a little while now and I absolutely love it. I think value for money is ridiculous, and if you are going to buy it on this canvas strap as opposed to the leather NATO. You know, there's many great leather NATO options out there that you can pick up instead, whereas this canvas strap is incredible with the leather built in. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Navsan, hello, how you doing, mate? How you doing? Hope you're well. Hope you are well. My Samsung S3 has taken over my other watches, and I'm a watch collector for over 40 years. Exactly, and that's my point. It's an interesting thing that's coming in, right? It's either going to bring people in who are never in, or it's going to bring people already in into a different way. And it's about how we deal with that as a sort of industry. I think there's a lot of potential there. My dad says the choices of watch faces on smartwatches introduce people to the look of mechanical watches. Yeah, they've got like mechanical watch faces on them from different brands and stuff like that. I've seen on the Apple Watch, I think, where people are doing that. It's certainly, there's a lot of interesting things that could potentially happen with all this. So the time will tell. It's definitely a time will tell kind of process. But I am interested to watch it play out. And I did have a smartwatch all the way back in 2016. This was one of the Huawei ones. As you can see, September 2016. This is what solidified for me what a watch should be for me, which is a watch, right? As opposed to a wrist gadget, which is what a smartwatch is, as opposed to a watch. Again, that's just my preference, and things might change. Things might change. We will see. We will see. But yeah, is it 38mm? Yes, yeah, the Hamilton is 38mm. Really great dimensions. You can't really go wrong with it. It's a good option for sure, for sure. Something about manually wound is also charming. Yeah, 100% and 80-hour power reserve in these as well. So the way they managed to do the 80 hours as opposed to what it used to be, which is the 40-hour, is they've reduced the beat rate, so it's not a smoother tick anymore as it used to be, which doesn't really bother me. They increased the size of the barrel and the mainspring to support the extra power reserve. I'm sure there's many other other things in that. I'm sure it's not as simple as that. But that's basically the sort of basics of it. So you get 80-hour power reserve. You've got a beat blasted case. You've got a really nice black dial, which has got a very matte finish. And you've got faux patina, which is an interesting conversation in and with itself, because I am not a fan of faux patina. However, on this watch, for some reason, it's just the way it's executed or the design, I don't know, it's perfect. I actually would not prefer it with normal lume on this. I just don't think it'd work with the aesthetic. So I think they've absolutely killed it with this. But I am interested to see what happens when faux patinas. Like, is it going to be double patina? It's gonna be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure. Another watch actually on the table that's got that faux patina design is this Breitling, surprisingly. So the all black Breitling, volcano black titanium. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's get that in focus. It has like a desert sand coloured luminescence. Again, it goes very well. It must be a black dial thing, where when you've got that matte black dial, it seems to work, because it doesn't look bad on this. And those little pops of red as well. Very, very gorgeous. So to those of you just tuning in, I want to say thank you. Today we did a few sort of questions and stuff from Instagram, because it's very difficult coming up with topics each and every day for an hour to talk about. So you guys have helped with the questions. I really do appreciate it. Watch Collecting Strategy says, did you hear about Baselworld this morning? I did. Yeah, I think they're pretty much done for. A lot of people in the industry are taking this as very bad news, and it's like the sort of death of this, and then some people are complete opposite. Personally, I think this was going to happen. I think it was kind of obvious that this was going to happen, and also I'm excited to see what happens next. Right? If it's just another watch expo that they do somewhere else in the world or the same place, like whatever. It's interesting what format and how they do it, right? Because what we've shown, and same with Salon QP, that has been a deteriorating show since I've been going since 2016. Each year, the amount of people attending is reduced, the amount of brands going is reduced, the quality of the brands going has reduced. Now, granted, there's still some incredible brands going, but it's just sort of got worse. And what that shows is people aren't interested in that format anymore. Of course, there are people who are. Otherwise, these shows wouldn't have existed for as long as they have. But people's attention has changed. The way people consume has changed. The way people think about their next purchases has changed. Therefore, these kind of shows and this kind of format has to change as well. So I think this is interesting. I think it's the perfect time for it to change as well. I mean, during this time where we're all locked in, hopefully this gives these brands and these people time to think about this stuff. You know, they haven't got the pressure of, we're producing X amount of watches that we need to get sold, because they're probably not producing much and they're probably not selling much at the moment. So it's a case of focusing on other things. You know, I think there's a big opportunity here, and I'm excited to see what they do. I think it's good for the industry. And we've seen time and time again throughout history that the Swiss watch market in particular thrives under pressure. You know, it's when they get the most creative, they do the most crazy things, the brands come up with really genius solutions to things. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think it's good. I think it's very good. Same as selling QP over here. Yeah, it's exactly true. It's exactly true. You know, selling QP has just been getting worse and worse each year. You know, nothing against the people running it or anything like that. I don't know them personally. I've met them a few times, but it's just the format has to change. You can't keep doing the same thing as it's getting worse, right? As you're sitting there and watching things get worse and you're not doing anything different, right? It's just, of course it's going to fail. You know, and it's why I'm taking this time where things are down. You know, anyone who says things are up, everything's great, you know, they're bullshitting. Things are down. Sales are down. Revenue's down. Everything's down. That's okay. You know, it gives us time. As long as you can survive, it's okay. And I'm doing my best to survive. But I'm using this time to think outside the box. You know, what is Kibble Watches going to be and what's it going to look like after this? And Basel should have been doing that like 4 years ago. And they weren't, or even longer ago. So, again, missed opportunity from their part. But not a surprising one. So whilst we're here, and for anyone who missed the start of the stream, I'm going to show something I'm considering buying for the personal collection. Now, I very rarely buy for the personal collection. I buy for the store, and I get to enjoy it in the meantime before it sells. That's kind of what happens. And I am considering adding this to the collection. So it's a Tissot, which might come as a shock to a lot of people. The Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80 Silicone. So you've got a 40mm case. Yes, you can say it and see it straight away. Rolex Oyster Perpetual or Rolex Datejust written all over it. However, it's done in a very, very nice way. And it's not just a blatant homage and rip-off, in my personal opinion. A lot of people will disagree. A lot of people have disagreed. You know, I've seen a lot of comments on this watch just like slating it massively. And fair enough. But when you consider what you get, and the retail price of this is £650, it's a lot of watch. It's a lot of watch for the money. So you got inside a Powermatic 80 movement, which is the 80-hour power reserve movement by Swatch Group, and it's got silicone hairspring. So an upgraded hairspring, which is more resistant to shock and magnetism, as far as I can remember. It comes in, excuse me, it comes in blue, black, and white, and on a bracelet. So right here you can see the dimensions. It's 40mm by 48mm, so it's not a small watch, but it's not a big watch. It would wear quite well on the wrist. I've owned watches of the same dimension, 11.5mm thick, so it's a bit on the thinner end. 21mm lug width, which is a bit of a pain, but again, not the end of the world. Crown is a push-pull, so not screw down, but again, it doesn't really matter. I don't really do much water sports anyway. The finishing is what I think is incredible. So you can see the graining and the way the brushed has been done and the polished chamfers. This is not just your average Tissot, and I think the Tissot Gentleman is where Tissot are trying to position themselves, right? Because in the market, Tissot are the affordable brand. Then you have Hamilton, sort of it tied in almost in between with them and Longines, and then it's Longines, and you could go on and go on and go on. I think Tissot are trying to bring a range of their own watches which are just far better than what they've been before. I think this is probably one of the first examples where that is very visible. I mean, anyone who's owned or handled Tissots, they're not bad watches, especially when we're talking about the Visidates and things like that. However, this is on a different league. This isn't your average Tissot anymore. I mean, it looks brilliant. Look at the detailing of the dial. So you've got the indices, which have got both brushed and polished, and they're applied. The handset, I mean, it just, yeah, it looks brilliant. It looks absolutely brilliant. And I'm probably going to add it to the collection. So this is what I'm thinking of adding. And it looks great on a strap as well. So there it is on a bracelet. Look at that on a strap. Perfect. So what do you guys and girls think? What do you think? Interested to hear what you say. If anyone was in at the start of the stream, they would have seen me show that. But I just think there's a lot of value for money there. And I'm probably going to do it soon. Reason being, why not? Why not? Why not? And again, it would be one for the personal collection, so I haven't really got to worry about value retention and everything like that, which is again another thing we've spoken about in this stream. You know, don't focus on how much it's going to be worth in X amount of years. Buy what you like, right? And if your focus is value, then don't buy watches, because it's just not a certainty. But anyway, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. I don't know how long we've been live. We have been live almost 50 minutes, so I think that's decent. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. We had the questions from Instagram, which definitely helped the format of the stream, so we might do that again. As I said, tomorrow we'll be live on Instagram, hopefully, with John at Antique Watch. Keep an eye out for that. Should be very interesting. It was very good last time. A lot of people got involved. So I hope you will get involved again, and I hope you enjoy it again. And that's it, really. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.